What's your advice for people to try and embrace some more playfulness when it comes to life? Serious things. I want to be taken seriously. I want to do things. I want to make an impact in the world.
Yeah.
I don't want to grip too tightly.
Yeah.
I know that when I grip too tightly, it kind of ruins the entire point.
Well, I think the way is not to say, oh, what you need is lighten up and tell a few jokes, because I think that's gonna rile people up. I think the thing to do is to push some pessimism their way, because it's actually, if you think about what a joke is always basically a bit of pessimism wrapped up in artfully wrapped, but it's basically pessimism. One of my favorite sayings by the Stoic philosopher Seneca, he goes, "What need is there to weep over parts of life?" He says, "The whole of it calls for tears." And everyone who hears that sort of gets a smile on their face. And you think, the guy wasn't trying to tell a joke. He wasn't trying to make it funny. He was just trying to be bleak and or to say it how it is. And then it makes us smile out of relief. And the relief is, phew, it's not just me. Arthur Schopenhauer, another great pessimistic German philosopher, said, "Today it is bad, tomorrow it will be worse, until the worst of all happens, death." Totally bleak. And you read that and you think, I feel a bit better about today already. I'm starting to cheer up. I think we really get it wrong, but we think the only way to cheer someone up is to tell them something cheerful. I think the Brits have understood this, right? Great. This country's got lots of problems, but one thing it understands is melancholy and the relief available in dark humor. And bless our American friends, but they don't get it as much. If you pitch up in LA and someone goes, "How are you?" and you go, "It's bad today, tomorrow it'll be worse, until the worst of all happens," they'll have you sectioned. Your life in Los Angeles is not going to take off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I've heard you refer to melancholy as tragedy well handled.
Absolutely. Tragedy well handled.
I adore that. I think it's so great. Sam Harris has something, he says something very similar. You have to smile at the absurdity of life. These situations, just as things were smooth, something comes along and completely sideswipes what you had planned.
Yeah.
And an interesting insight, I suppose, that the volume that you complain is probably proportional to the amount that you're enabled to see life for what it is, which is not at your whim. Life is going to have problems thrown at you.
Yeah, but Chris, let's not do down complaining. I mean, it's one of the great pleasures.
It's one of Britain's great pastimes.
Well, it's one of everybody, and being able to complain to a loved one, and you'll have to listen to their complaints too. But to complain without expectation of a solution. I mean, the big complaint that every mortal, directs to the sky ultimately is, why do I have to die? And, and then you work your way down from that to, why do I have to go to work? Why do, all these things. But yes, life would be a poor thing if we weren't allowed to spend a good deal part of it complaining.
I've heard you say that adult relationships are a litmus test of our emotional development, that they're a moment where your past catches up with your present. How so? Why is that the case?
So the way we love as adults always bears the imprint of the way which we were loved and we loved as children. And that hugely restricts how we're able to behave and explains the very peculiar, often nonsensical, often counterproductive ways in which we love. We're not free to love just anyone. And this, I'm sure you'll have had this in your life, met people, etc., who will say things like, "I seem to have ended up with quite a difficult person for me. They're quite challenging for me. Why can't I go and love somebody else? Why am I so in love with this person who's quite challenging?" And often it's because what's challenging sits on the very area that was challenging in your past. And that's what makes them attractive. Now, before we want to jump off a cliff at the pessimism involved, let's be a little optimistic here. In a good relationship, we are drawn towards people who, yes, carry some of the puzzles, some of the knots, some of the challenges of a parental figure or figure of a caregiver. But they hold out the promise of a different ending. So whereas in the relationship with parent or caregiver, it ended up with shouting and you stormed out of the house and you're no longer in touch with them. Imagine the joy, imagine the sense of triumph over sort of adversity and human non-communication if you are together as a couple, able to move towards understanding and mutual growth. I think that explains why people hang in there with people who you might think, we're talking about attachment theory. An anxious person who teams up with an avoidant one. You might want to go, why? Why are you with this avoidant person? And look at this other, I'm going to present you with a perfectly securely attached person. And you go, oh, they're a bit boring. Don't really want them. You think, why? What's going on? Is this pure perversion? Let's be generous towards that impulse. They're trying to find a different ending to probably a very painful early situation. And to be able to do that, to be able to grow together is literally, I think, one of the most exciting and lovely things. It's rare, which is why successful love is rare. But to grow together away from your early attachment wounds powers a lot of the ambition of love.
In other news, this episode is brought to you by Element. Element contains a science-backed electrolyte ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium with no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, or any other BS. It plays a critical role in reducing muscle cramps and fatigue while optimizing brain health, regulating appetite, and curbing cravings. This orange salt in a cold glass of water is like a beautiful, sweet, salty, orangey nectar first thing. And it's how I've started my day for nearly 4 years now, actually. I adore it. I keep putting it in my body because I feel the difference, and you can too. Also, they have a no questions asked refund policy, so you can buy it completely risk-free. If you don't like it for any reason, they'll give you your money back. You don't even need to return the box. That's how confident they are that you'll love it. Right now, you can get a free sample pack of all 8 flavors with your first box by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. To get all of this, that's drinklmnt.com/modernwisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip with Alain, you'll love the full-length 2-hour-long podcast, which I've been waiting over 10 years to do by going right here.